So I left you guys last time with this song. It's called Universe, and I had drums, we had bass guitar, electric guitar, we added some acoustic guitars. And what I want to show you is what I've done to the drums. Oh, cool, I forgot this mapped already. So this is what the drums sound like now, originally. For myself. And I've since created some MIDI tracks with samples on them, and I'll turn those on now so you can hear how I've tried to augment the sound of my drums using samples. Here we go. So you could hear, this is my original kick, and this is with the sample. Now I'm going to mix these a little bit, but just to give you an idea, like this is what the snare started as, and this is what the sample on top of it. I did the same thing on the toms too. It's a good spot with the toms here. I'll just loop this little section. So that was the rack tom without any sample. Here's the sample. Here together. Thickens things out. Did the same thing with the floor tom. No sample yet. And then with the sample. So my toms now sound nice and big, and I've got some heftier drums. I'll take out the samples. So much less action going on here with the samples. So I'm just trying to thicken things up, make the drums a little more powerful, give a little more emphasis to them. And I've got, so for the kick drum, I've got this drum rack here. And I'm going to show you how I did this. I'll just show you like these racks I built. So this is the sample, and it's a drum rack with 2 chains on it. One of them is a 606 that sounds like this. And then another one is from the Ableton library. I think this one came from the Session Drums pack of theirs. I think Session Studio. Drum hits, probably. This is kick. I think it's one of these Plastics Studio Basic. That should be it right there. And that sounds like this. And they have all kinds of levels at different velocities. I think what I'm going to use anyway is kind of a maximum velocity, which I don't actually have here. But on other tracks I've been doing this on, I have the velocity all the way up, which is what I think I'm going to do. And, you know, those two mixed together give me this. And again, just so you hear the original. Original needs a little extra love. That's really all that's going on there. And again, these will get mixed more once I'm ready to start mixing. The snare drum sounds like this. I've got a snare hit, which this one also comes from this pack, I believe, from Ableton's website. Hit direct natural. This is it right there. That's the snare I picked. But you know what? I'm not even using it, it looks like. I guess I decided not to use it. We'll have to investigate that. I've got this thing called the Jeff Lynne snare. And this comes from what is probably my favorite YouTube channel right now, Dr. Bob. I think I talked about him last time. And he provided samples based on like trying to recreate the sound of Jeff Lynne, producer. I'm going to put that link to this video in the chat. But he's got these on his site for free, which I'll also give you a link to, and I'll put this on the screen so you can see it. Dr. Bob, whoop, there he is. Dr. Bob has probably got my current favorite YouTube channel right now. And these Jeff Lynne samples, they're snares, they're free. I think it's like 8 different samples. And he shows you how he like mixed them together. What I did was take all of those samples. Well, okay, so there's actually like however many that is, like something like 24 different hits of all these drums. I took all of these samples, I put them inside a session in Live, and then I mixed them how I wanted them, and then I recorded them to one track, so they were just these one samples, and that's these guys here. So I did like my own mix of the Jeff Lynne snare samples, and it gives me that sound, which I think is a great snare. So those are worth checking out if you want. That's just how I wanted to go about it. I'm excited about his channel. I wanted to use his snares. And I've also got a layer of an operator. And the operator is set to white noise. And that sounds like this. It's just a little high end to give the snare a little extra rattle. I think I've got it filtered out quite a bit. And I just felt it added a nice little extra sparkle to the top. It's so subtle. If I crank it up so you can really hear it, that's going to be too much. But that's what it's doing. It's adding that white noise sound there. I got it down real low, but just a little touch there. My rack toms are actually really simple. It's just one of these. This is, I think, also from the same selection of drum instruments from Ableton, the Session Drum Studio, which are really nicely recorded drums. And I think it's the same story with the floor tom as well. And that's what I've got here. Maybe before I get into all that, I can just for the fun of it, I'll let you hear. I added a little bit of stuff to this track, including like a guitar solo and some extra guitars just to thicken it out. I call these guitar emphasis. I'll play it from here. So these are 2 guitars going through amplitude presets. And this, I think, kind of complements the guitars I recorded out of my amp kind of nicely. I'll take them out. This is without those guitars. And if you listen when I put them on, you get kind of like a little more fuzz right here. A little more energy. I'd probably save those for like the choruses. Like that. I'm gonna decide when it's mixing time. This gives me some more of a palette to work with. Gives me more options sonically. It was easy enough to just record these parts quick. I used 2 different guitars, Fender Strat, right here, and Jag Stang, which is just a little bit out of reach. And this is the solo, which also uses amplitude. My guitar solo inspiration is Elliot Easton of the Cars these days. I'm learning some of his solos and borrowing some ideas from what he does. So those are the other additions I made to this track for now. Nothing too major, but I've been trying to figure out what to play on that guitar solo for many months now. I've been dancing around it. I've had like some of the little melodic points in there, but not quite the full thing. And I sat down and let it loop, looks like 52 times. Just kept playing it until I got something I really liked. And I might keep that. I don't know. This wasn't intended to be the guitar solo, but the more I listen to it, I just kind of like it. So maybe I'll keep it. I might try to record it again, see how it comes out. But so far, so good. You know, we're still in early stages here. We still have a lot to do. But coming along a little. So anyway, back to the drums. I want to show you how I did this drums sampling, how to get these samples. And I'm going to do that with a track from these sessions that, let's see here. I need to open my Finder. Let me do it this way. I got a track that I have not yet done this to. I did it to 3 of the tracks. Right now we have 4 so far. And that would be Me and You New. This one needs the drum replacement. This one needs more work, actually, than the rest of them. We haven't yet done those acoustic guitars that my friend Alex and I played at the same time. So we set up that one mic in between us. We both played acoustic guitars. And then we switched guitars and just recorded it again. So there's going to be 2 tracks of acoustic guitars, 2 guitars at a time, all on one mic, which will mean 4 acoustic guitars. So on this one, I've got just kind of the basic rhythm guitars, a Gibson SG and the Fender Strat. And I've used 3 different mics, 2 different amps on each. So there's a lot of information here. Again, stuff I might need to work on a little, might need to doctor up a little, but that's where we are right now. Well, let's see what this even sounds like here. This is by no means mixed or anything, of course. Here, drums and bass. And I'll probably layer in some more guitars. Hide these take lanes. We're gonna do some acoustics here. I don't really know what the acoustics are gonna be yet. It's gonna be a matter of us playing a little and seeing what we come up with, seeing what we like, and if it even works. But I'm enjoying the acoustics as like an extra texture. They're not really meant to be the main focal point. They're just going to be something to kind of add a dimension. So that ought to give you an idea, right? Okay. So let's now look in the drums. Close everything else down nice and small. And we'll make the drums a little bit bigger here. So the nice thing about miking each instrument is I can focus on each one when I do the this drum replacement trick that I'm going to do here. And probably the easiest thing for me to do would be to take this whole entire clip. There are a couple little edits in here. I'm just going to make it a new clip. I'm going to consolidate it. We can right click, or the shortcut is Command J. Where's consolidate? There it is, right there. Consolidate. Okay, I've got my Sonar reference. I don't think that matters when I'm consolidating, but let's just get this out. That's a really cool thing, by the way. We'll consolidate this now. Reference by Sonar works. It allows you to, it's a microphone you get, and it's software that listens to the microphone. So the speakers send out these weird sounds into the microphone, and it listens to the way it sounds coming out of your speakers. And through moving it around the room, you spend like 10, 15 minutes putting it in all these different spots that it tells you to put it. It figures out what the problems with your room are, and then basically generates like a custom made EQ curve for you to put on your master bus or even on your whole system audio that will correct the problems in your room, like resonant frequencies or dropped frequencies, things like that. And it does a really nice job. It's pretty cool to like A/B it and hear like your corrected room and everything sounds nice. And then when you turn the plugin off, it's muddy again. But you don't want to output anything. You don't want to export anything with that plugin on there because it's for your room, not for every room. So that's why I got that little message. It's just reminding me, hey, you're about to do something that you might not want to do. I don't think that would have really mattered when I'm consolidating a track though. Okay, so here we have a kick drum, and it's all one nice clip, which will just make this easier so I don't have to do it a bunch of times. And it's our kick drum. I'm going to right click on here and do convert drums to new MIDI track. And this will take a few seconds here. Convert drums to new MIDI track will listen to the audio you have, and Live will make the best guess it can at a kick, snare, and hi-hat. So if you have a drum pattern that's kick, snare, hi-hat, it does a pretty good job of figuring out what the beat is. You usually have to go in there and clean things up and delete some notes, but it can be a really nice starting place. I'm going to have to do some cleanup on this. I only have a kick, and it's going to give me all kinds of extra information. But it's going to be probably the quickest way I can think of to do this. So here's our MIDI clip. And if we look at what's going on in here, there's all kinds of nonsense, right? It's got a hi-hat, a snare, a kick. I'm just going to delete the hi-hats. I'm going to delete the snares. And I'm just going to stick with the kick. And I'm even going to just turn these all the way up to 127. I don't need any velocity fluctuation. I'm finding, as I've kind of do like quick mixes on these drums, after I put the samples in, it's kind of nice not to have any fluctuation in the velocity, because then the sample changes with the instruments I've been using. I get like different types of sounds, different kick drum samples. Sometimes they don't have as much impact. I like it just consistent. I let the actual kick drum handle the dynamics, and this kick drum is more just to support and fill things in. I'm finding that works the best. So I'm going to go into my current project here because I have made presets of kicks that I like, and I'm going to just put that in our drum rack. So I don't need all these other things going on in here. I can just delete everything, and I can put my kick right there, and that should start playing. And we would of course have to go in here and just double check that Live has made all the proper kicks. It looks like I missed one here, so that looks like an important one. It's on a 1 beat. You'll hear how funny it sounds without it. You know, even in the context of the whole kit, like that's going to be noticeable. So it's easy enough to fix. We can just highlight this little portion here. I'll switch to my MIDI view, and I'm looking right there. I'll just draw one in, make it about that big, and I'll just eyeball it. I'll just drag it to where it needs to go until it looks nice and lined up. It's a little bit early. And I might need to just disable the grid for this, so we can turn the grid off. And something like that looks pretty good. And this is, I would of course have to do this for the whole track, because it does a nice job, but it does miss some too. Looks like we missed one here. It can be kind of weird sounding when it misses them. I won't really bore you with that process because that's some of the tedious work, but again, I would just zoom in on there, highlight the portion. I'll show you one more time. This is the little section. So that just gives me that area of the MIDI clip. I'll click there and just make it long enough so I can see what's happening. and drag it till it looks like it's about at the right spot. It's a little early still. I think you can get away with a little bit of fluctuation. You don't want too much. But it would be important to do that for all of them, because I have noticed, when I'm listening back, you can actually feel like the loss of energy. So my drums with the kick, without the kick. And of course, these need to be mixed together to get it just right. And I would make decisions on probably like which kick is going to handle like the very low end, which kick is going to handle more of the upper frequencies. Maybe one will handle just the transient. I've had some luck using like the drum bus. So if we just listen to this kick here, there's like some life to that. It kind of lasts a little while. I might bring in the drum bus here, just put it on here. I was doing this last night on another track. I thought it sounded nice when I brought the transient down. And I'm kind of just using it for that poke through the mix part, that beater, and cleans it up a lot. Takes some of the air out of there. You can go in the opposite direction and bring up the tail. You can use the compression. Without it. It's worth noting I'm adding volume to it. But I like what that does. Just makes it poke through a little better. So there's the kick. Just like that, I got a kick sample now. I've improved the quality of those drums quite a bit, I think. And the process is more or less the same for all the other ones. Snare drum, again, I'm going to do the same thing. First, I'll just consolidate this. This time I'll use the shortcut, Command-J. That's a really good shortcut to know, Command-J. If you've got a bunch of separate clips that you want to make into one, it's really nice. And it's also good for just when you're doing lots of edits. Kind of gives you like a fresh start on a brand new, unchopped up clip. Live's doing his work right here. And we're going to do the same process. We're going to convert this drums to MIDI. Going to take away all the other drums, all the kind of default stuff. And there's our snares. They're kind of easy to see. Things get funny sometimes on the rolls. That might take like a little of my own handwork. Listen to this quick. Like I might need to do some work there. We'll see what happens. Right click, convert drums to new MIDI track. Live is analyzing everything, figuring out where all the different parts are, and gonna give me a whole drum kit based on just this snare drum. There is more than just the snare. I do have a gate on this, so it is cutting out like some of the pickup of the bleed, of like the kick and the snare and all of that. So we're gonna lose all that. Well, we're not gonna need all that. That's what I'm really trying to say. I don't want this here. Move zoom out of the way. Okay. This is our snare sample. You'll probably guess this session is going to get pretty big pretty quick. What am I up to? And I've hardly started 23 tracks. And I really only have drums, bass, and guitar. So it's going to get big quick. So it's important to name things early and often. We don't need all this. We will first delete. We'll delete out all the hi-hats. This time we'll delete out all the kicks, and we can see all our snares. I'm going to just bring these all the way up to 127 as well. And we'll do the same thing we did before. get rid of all of these guys. And in my current project, I saved the presets for the snares. And we'll put that on the snare. And I could probably do the same thing with the drum bus on that too. Let's see what we need here. So let's see what we get. I got my kick sample a little. Without it, with it. There's like kind of like a long ring on this snare. Very prominent tone. And that's kind of a big reason. Let's see, I tried to EQ this out a lot. Like that. That sound. I just have a hard time with. That's what it sounds like without the EQ. So that's why the sample to me is especially important. And just like I would on the kick drum, we're going to have to go through these, especially when we get to the drum rolls. It's going to be kind of funny with live things about this drum roll right here. Should be coming up any second. So I'm going to have to do some work there, clean it up. What I'm probably going to do is let the actual snare do most of the work. I might automate it up a little louder. I might just use these samples for kind of the accents. But that's going to take a little, because there, you know, that's a lot of snare hits. And I don't think a machine gun of a snare sample is going to sound too good. So I'm going to have to work on that. But that's some of the more tedious editing stuff that will come in a little bit later. Right now, I'm just trying to get these drum samples in there to get a rough idea of what it's going to sound like, which is going to make recording the acoustic guitars just a little better. We'll hear the hits and impacts a little more. So let's just check what we got here. A lot of fills here. So let's add some life to these toms. You can see pretty clearly where the toms hit. It does pick up all the other stuff in the kit, like right here. I have a gate on these because I don't want all of that in my mix. It's all the drums reverberating around inside that rack tom. So the gate does a nice job cleaning that up. Same thing with the floor tom. If I turn both those gates off, just let you hear, all of that level is going into my mix. And I don't even need any of that. Look at how much it's eating all my headroom. It's going to be competing with other instruments. And we only get the toms certain points of the song. So these gates are nice. They're helping a lot. Probably what I'm going to do later on, I'm probably just going to get right in on here and just delete everything that's not an actual tom hit. Because then what I can do is fade these nicely. This tom, like, it has a kind of long tail and there's a lot of noise going on. I might not need all that. And part of the beauty of using samples to reinforce these toms is that I'll have a very clean sample without the noise of the band and the rest of the drums inside. Well, I guess you don't really hear the band because we isolated the drums nicely. We had the guitar and bass going through headphones, so that wasn't in the room. The mics weren't picking it up. But still, the rest of the drum kit is in there, rattling around, and we don't need that. So let's consolidate everything on this track here. Command J, consolidate. This is making a brand new audio file. And it's probably going to stick out more over here. I didn't mean to do that, but Oh well. I think it will. I don't know if it will. We'll see. Maybe it won't. Well, so almost there. And let's see what we got. Yep, made it longer unnecessarily. And while I'm at it, I'll just do the same thing with the floor tom. Command J. This way we have them both ready to go. I'm going to also put the toms in their own group within the drum group. I might even do that with all of the like snare with the kick, just make it so I could have one track that I can just mute, so I can mute all of the kicks, all of the snares, and all of the toms nice and easy. That'll be good. And so basically the approach here is I'm going to use the drum overhead to get the character of the live drums, and I'm going to also use, you know, the actual sounds too, but I'm really using the samples to give me kind of like the meat, the actual like body of a lot of this stuff. And it gives me so much control, you know, if I find like my toms don't fit so well the way they are, I can use the sample and it's not so bad. So we're gonna go in here. You know, I actually think that what I did last time was I just eyeballed it. I think I drew in the samples. But let's see if we can get away with some converting to drums to MIDI. I don't think we really have any toms until the chorus. I think these are just kicks and snares. Yep, sounds like it. So maybe what I'll probably do, now that I think about it, just to make life a little quicker and easier, is I might actually just separate these little portions that actually have the toms, and I'll just do the convert to MIDI on those guys. Looks like we got a floor tom over here towards the end. Is that a floor tom? Sounds like that might have been. Yeah, that sounds like one. Okay, so we'll do this too. But I don't think we did it. We have any rack tom action. So let's just see how this works. We might need to kind of do it ourselves manually. But we're going to convert these and see what we get. So we're going to get a lot of information out of here. If nothing else, it at least gave us our new MIDI track and drums. And it looks like it interpreted these toms as kick drums. Whoops, that means delete that. That's what I'm thinking it did. So that's kind of nice. So I think we can use that. So I'll delete our hats. I'll delete our snares. And then we're calling it a kick. We could call it a kick. That's fine. Let's try it out. So I'm going to go inside here. Again, delete all of this stuff out. And then I've got my rack tom, which I'll put where the kick was. We're on solo here, so we're not hearing anything. Let's just see what this does, if it worked out as we wanted. It looks like there's only like 4 rack tom hits. Sounded all right. You kind of heard like the gate opened weird there. You know, that's the gate just opening kind of funny here, which is why it'd be better to just carve this. You know, probably just better to delete everything else around that. But cool, that seemed to work well, so I'm going to just do it again here. Where it jumps into this is much quicker than doing the whole track, right? And, oh, okay, there's one reason why we might want to do the whole track. We could just drag this down here, that's fine. I'll do it again. Convert drums to new MIDI track. We'll just drag it down again. It's going to make a whole new MIDI track, which we don't really need. So I'll bring those there, and we can delete this one and that one. And maybe we can get away with some multi-clip editing here. I think we can. Very good. And those look more or less. Might have to investigate this area at some point. It looks like we got the general idea. I'm guessing this is a little more active tom fill. Yeah. I have to compare them. So it might be a little work to make sure. It doesn't sound too bad, actually. Yeah, I might just have to look in there and see what we get. It looks like it only got the first of a couple of these. And sometimes I might not want all of those with a sample. I might just want the accents. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to crank up the velocity on all of these. You have to just do it like this, I think. Let's just get full blast. Yeah, that sounds. A little better. So just to hear those without the sample, get that extra power. Those are my rack toms. Let's do it again. I did all this cutting, didn't I? Okay, so we'll do the same thing. Convert drums to new MIDI track. We'll do it again. Convert drums. I can tell you, I already like seeing that just these little areas are where my rack toms are. It just helps me visualize it when I'm going to do the mix. I can just see that I only have floor toms and rack toms in these couple little areas. So I don't really have to worry about them anywhere else in the track. Let's delete those extra MIDI tracks. Expand this. Now, once again, I will, well, while I'm here, I'll delete out everything. I'll bring in my floor tom, which I didn't actually check, but I'm hoping that this as well corresponds with the kick. And I think it interpreted as the kick again. So that is just kind of lucky, I think. In the other tracks that I did this on, there weren't as many toms. I think I did it manually. Kind of forget already. But I think I just kind of drew them in wherever I saw them. Which is a way you can do this. You can go in manually, but it is nice that Live will nice and easily. You let me do this? You won't let me do that. Live will let me, what was I going to say? I forget what I was going to say. It's nice that Live will let me convert drums to MIDI. That's what I wanted to say. All right, so let's hear what our floor tom sounds like now. We got a busy floor tom over here. So that's the sample. Definitely sounds a little machine gunny. Let's see how it sounds with the actual one. A little bit of a nightmare right now. We might have to do a little work. That looks like one of the sloppier ones. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out exactly what he played. Or interpret it, and it is going to involve moving some of these samples around, which is fun. You know, not that big a deal. And I think on the kick drum, I'm sorry, on the tom, this floor tom, it might make some sense to maybe give these just like a little bit of velocity range, a little bit of random. So we just get slightly different samples each time. Because that sounded kind of machine gunny and fake to me. So I'm just going to give it a little velocity range. About 10, that might just be plenty. And that's really like the approach I'm using here to reinforce these drums. My rack sample, I'll do my floor sample, and I will also group these. Select them all, Command G, and now I've got a group which I can call toms. And that's, you know, like, I'm going to pan these out a bit, move my racks over to the left, move my floor toms over to the right a bit, give us a little space. I don't remember if I have Zoom set up for that, but it's nice. It spreads it out, makes me feel like I'm around a kid. Yeah, I get a little surround there. I even like to pan the snare a little bit, just slightly. The snare, if you're playing the drums, it is like kind of to your left a little bit. It's on the left of the kit if you're a righty. But it also kind of just leaves a little tiny bit of room up the middle. I think that, you know, just a little bit. I don't want it to be off center. But as I listen to this, and again, I don't know if Zoom is giving you stereo right now. I don't think I have that set up, but it just sometimes just the slightest change, you know, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, can just give things their own spot, their own place. Having said that, a lot of times when I mix, I like to mix in mono. So I might even put on my master channel a utility. Under utilities, and I think we just have a mono, right? And I might just put that right there so that everything's in mono. So I'm gonna have to adjust levels. We're already like hitting the limiter here. But if I mix things nicely in mono, when I take it out of mono, things will just really open up nicely. So it's like I'm confining myself to just a volume dimension when I mix in mono. And then once I take it out of mono, now I have the panning dimension to work with. And that can really open things up quite a bit if you take advantage of that. So that's kind of where I'm at with these songs here. We've done some drum sample replacement. There's a track, I'll let you hear that. I did a little bit of drum mixing on. See, maybe I was doing this last night. Last night I thought it sounded good. We'll check it out real quick, just so you can get a sense of like what it's doing and the plan. It also has some of the extra guitars and the acoustics. Last night I was thinking it was coming along pretty nicely. I think we all know that feeling of when you're working on something and you come to it the next day and you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? But let's see, hopefully I'm not wrong. What I did on these tracks is I kind of spent a little time treating the two different kicks a little bit differently. So you can see, like, I really cut a lot of I'm using the sample more for the like lower energy and a little bit of the like impact. And then I kind of have some of the middle stuff on the normal kick drum. So, and I've got the drum bus cutting out some of that tail and emphasizing some of the transients too. And I thought it sounded good last night. I'll listen to it right now. Here, this is a much quieter mix too, which is really where I want to be more. Yeah, I like that kick right now. And, of course, the overheads are playing a part in that sound too. I've got like these emphasis guitars right here. Adding that when I hit these big chords coming up. Acoustic comes in. So I think that all helps a little bit. Let's see. Some extra guitar stuff here. That's an electric and an acoustic. The electric is really like kind of staticky, grimy up there, but with the acoustics, which are, again, same process, two people playing on one track, switch the guitars and two people again, so it's actually 4 acoustics. When they come together, they really help each other. That's just a little something that's actually during like the solo part. It'll just add a little extra interest. But I think maybe these drums sound a little more like mixed. I got some nice toms. And I've tried to be mindful of like my levels here. I'll probably even lower the volume on everything a little bit, to be honest, just so I have like more room when I do the vocals and whatever other kind of fun ear candy we throw in there. Yeah, so that's kind of the story. That's where we're at right now. I'll be updating you soon. I plan on doing a little more recording in the next couple days, so hopefully there'll be some updates in the next little while. Let's see, you got a question. What strings am I using on the acoustics? I think they are... I think they're like a coated string that Diodario makes. I just changed them not that long ago too, so they are pretty new. They're bright. I like those coated strings. They kind of have like a little sparkle and a nice feel to them. They're like kind of smooth. I'll let you hear the acoustics kind of on their own. And I've EQ'd the daylights out of them. I don't want much bass in these. I'll let you hear them without much. So like the low end, I really don't need that, so I'm cutting that out on these. Now you're hearing it. But I think it's nice to hear like the two guitars. It has like a kind of like live feel. I'm trying to bring that in. That's why we played them together. And again, I'm not saying that this is mixed or anything, but my plan is to really get rid of a lot of the low end stuff that I don't really need. I'm going to let the bass handle the low end. I'm going to let some of the electrics handle more of that low end. These acoustics are really in there more for like texture. And I think a good spot where you hear the texture is in this little build here. So I'll let you hear that again. Oh, at the end actually is a nice spot, I think, for the acoustics. So the ending on all of the electrics, I'm just playing these big chords. Boom, boom, boom. That's the same thing with on the Strat. I did it on the SG, big chords. And I even did the emphasis chorus chords. Then that kind of like wow, 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 wow. It's on this track, these two tracks here. But I'll let you hear what that goes into. No acoustic right now. This is sort of like the grand finale. Big outro. So the guitars are just hitting the big chords. Bass is a little low. The bass was very loud in my headphones last night. I'm on these earbuds. But I want you to listen to like what the acoustic does when I turn it on. Gives it like some forward motion. And I kind of picture like maybe some tambourines to help propel it a little, maybe even shakers or something. Some percussion to kind of move it a little, but the acoustics are there to supply that texture and movement. If I take them out, it really feels like something's missing. Bring them back. So that one has got a lot. I think there'll be synthesizers on here and layers of vocals. Got to do a guitar solo still. That'll be fun. And there's still some work to do. I plan on really trying to go in and make it slick. I'm not like slick, like, I mean, already you can tell it's not going to come out like boy band pop slick, but you know, I want to try some fun things, make it feel action packed. So nice. Maybe yeah. Hey, what's
sorry,
up?
could I just ask, I wonder, is cutting low end or a high end of something, would that be like the first thing that you might do with the sound when you're starting the mixing process, is kind of figure out where you want it to sit and cut, or how would you
Yeah, I do that. I do a lot of like cutting on the low end, especially. Like things on the acoustic guitar. There is bass information on the acoustic guitars. I think I even had the cut on the microphone too. The microphone I was using had like a high pass filter, so I was able to cut out some of the low energy going into it to begin with. But it's like I'm thinking about like, what do I want to do the job of the bass, like the low end frequencies, and not the acoustic guitar. That's not what it's going to be doing. It's going to be the bass, the kick drum, the snare drum. Even the electric guitars will get some roll off here. I always use this as a rule of thumb. The E string, the low E string on the electric guitar, if you look on our frequency spectrum here, you get the readout over here. It tells you the hertz you're at, the decibels are vertical, but it also tells you the note that corresponds to. And the low E string on a guitar is about 80, 82 or so, whatever. It's in that little ballpark there, 81 maybe. So I know I don't need anything lower than that in my guitar. That's just going to be kind of rumble and stuff. And a lot of times I don't even need a lot of that. You can see like I've got it, it actually starts rolling off, even though the frequency is set to, right here I have it 80. The way I have the cue, it's kind of like rolling off a little early. And not that I have that at the most precise spot yet, but I want to make room for the bass. And I find that the guitars actually sound thicker if I roll off some energy and let the bass kind of support it. So it's about making room. And one of the places that you want to make room is in the low end, and not everything needs to be very low endy. And a lot of times the guitars, the instruments on their own, they might not even sound that great soloed. I think this Strat here is a nice example of it's not like, it doesn't sound that great on its own. It's like very trebly, but in the context of the mix, with the acoustic under it, I think it's like nice like that. A lot of times you'll hear advice from people about mixing where they say, don't listen to the thing you're mixing, and don't do it in solo, because you might hear this in solo and be like, oh, we got to do something about that. That sounds like so staticky and high pitched. I'm cutting a lot out of that, right? I'm even giving it a little extra here. But in the context of the mix, that's serving a purpose that some of the other guitars are not. So it's definitely a consideration, like, and a good place I tend to start, like, are the broad things. Like, I know this instrument doesn't need to have much bass in it. This isn't going to be a bass element. This isn't going to be a treble element. I did that with some of the kicks, I think. I know I don't need like all this, especially. I do want a little bit here because that's kind of the beater, the impact. That's what I did here too. But I'm kind of like making room here. I like to think about it sort of like carving space. I think of this, the frequency spectrum here. This is our whole song, right? This is all the room we get. I like to think of it like a canvas, and something has to be over here in my painting. Something has to be over here. Something has to be over here. I can't put everything in my bass. I can't have super bassy guitar. I can't have super heavy bass, big heavy kick drum. It'd be like trying to paint a picture over there. I'm going to put my house there, my tree there, my whatever else I'm going to put in my painting. If I put it all there, they'll all be blocking each other and you won't be able to see anything. So you have to spread it out a little bit. And that's kind of the same thing, I think, with mixing. And sometimes a lot of mixing also just starts with the sounds you choose, like with the actual arrangement of the song. And a rock band with like guitar, drums, and bass is already sort of arranged. There's a reason that's a format that people use, is because it's sort of like pre-mixed a little bit. The same thing if you look at orchestras, there's reasons why there's this many of that instrument and that many of this, and why they're here, why these ones are close, why those ones are in the back, why these are over here. It's all like, it's kind of like mixing on stage. And I don't know a ton about that, but I know that that's why certain setups are that way. That's why a string quartet has, you know, the violins and a violin, maybe viola, and the cello. You think, what is 2 violins, maybe a viola and a cello. There might be variations, but it's because you need certain elements to occupy certain notes in the frequency spectrum. So yeah, I do think about that a lot. And I think it's a good starting point to kind of decide what's going to be where. And a lot of times when I'm writing songs, especially like if it's like electronic-y type stuff, I kind of think like, all right, I have a bass part now. I need something on top of that, something higher, something higher. And each part sort of like fills a gap in this canvas of frequencies.
So do you start with the lower, like if you when you're entering the mixing stage, do you start with the lower sounds and then kind of layer up, or
Um, a little bit, I guess. I tend to like to start with the drums. Um, yeah, I usually start with the drums and then I probably put the bass in. And yeah, I guess a little bit I do that way. I don't know if that's the rule. Sometimes I like to work with the focal point too to kind of start there, but usually at that I usually have the drums going at some point for assuming there are drums, but sometimes it's good to get like the focal point right, like maybe start with a vocal, make that sound nice and then fit things around it too. But at the same time, I bet in a lot of cases, if you're just listening to the vocal in isolation, you'll probably want more low end in there because it's alone. But when you start putting it in the mix, you might realize I need to take some of that out of there. Because a lot of times when you start cutting the low end on things within the mix while the whole song is playing, there's like a point you kind of keep moving it away and you don't even notice it going away. It's just kind of revealing space for everything else. Then you hit a point, you really hear it. And a lot of times, my kind of rule of thumb is once I start hearing it, I then back it off a little bit. I like to do that with reverb. Like once I start hearing the reverb, I'll just bring it down a little so I'm not overdoing it. I'd rather underdo it than overdo it. All of these decisions add up over the course of the mix. Like little things become big after a while.
and I think you mentioned you kind of mix as you go, right?
A little bit.
A little.
Yeah,
Um,
a little bit. Mostly, though, like the mixing I'm doing now is really just so I get a sense of like what gaps I have to fill. And just to, because if it sounds a little bit better, it's a little more exciting to work on. You know what I mean? But I might, there are times when I start, once I finish, I start from scratch, and just do it again. Um, Start mixing from nothing. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with that. With this, I have a feeling since these drums are so consistent, we recorded all the drums the same day, and then I've got all the same samples in these. I'll probably mix the drums in a track and then like take the settings I have into another, just drag it into like a preset, maybe group it all into one big audio effect rack and then just drop that on another track later on. I'm going to try that because that would be nice if I could kind of like mix all the drums, by mixing just one of the drums. There'll probably be some adjustments I need to make depending on the song and how they're played, but um, I think I might do something like that as a starting point, at least.
do you ever get into are you ever mixing along with something and you kind of just like what you're doing and you think maybe I don't need to start whole fresh on this one, and when you get into the mixing process?
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I
Yeah.
was trying something out just today where there was a song I was making, and it kind of I'd already put so much quite a lot of work into mixing kind of accidentally, just along the way. And like you couldn't really I don't even know where to start if
Hmm.
I made it bare again. I did for fun, made it bare, but
Right.
um so what I did was, and I just wonder if you might do something similar. I turned off all the effects and then kind of started turning them on again and just reworking them,
Yeah.
uh, and just, you know, getting, then I kind of got to change them a little and mess around, but the bare bones of what I did was still there, or the things that I thought, oh, maybe I won't get that back, they were still there, but I could play around, just switching them on,
Hmm.
layering it up.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because sometimes the boundary between like mixing and sound design gets a little blurry.
Mm.
Um, I maybe a little less so in like this type of music because I mean the guitar tones, right? Like I could change this guitar tone right now, and we could make it totally different, um, and that's gonna really change everything. So there's like kind of an element of sound design here, but some of the other guitars that I actually mic'd up, they're kind of a little more set.
Mm.
Um, so there is like a bit of, especially when you're doing like, if I have synthesizers and things, some of the mixing and some of the sound design kind of like overlap. If I'm using a filter on my synth, I'm EQing basically.
Sure.
So yeah, it can be. I don't know that there's like a right way to do it. I think whatever works for you, what the flow. I guess I am doing a little bit of mixing on the fly as I go.
Mm.
Um, but I'm not really like committed to anything too much at this point. Um, but I want to be. I want to commit a little, I guess. So
Do
it'll
you
probably make more sense once the other parts are in there, and then I can hear how they work together.
yeah, I wonder, do you discuss with the band like beforehand what your sound, what you kind of want to do,
Hmm.
or is it more of a, let's just play and sure, let's just see what happens?
Yeah, we've definitely talked about it. If we were considering just doing it live straight. I have an 8-track tape machine. Maybe we'll just record to the tape machine. Um, but we kind of decided to do it in here, and then I think what I will do is mix 8 tracks onto the tape machine, and then that'll be like groups, right? I'll probably have like 2 tracks for the drums, maybe a track for the bass, rhythm guitars, and then kind of bring it back in just to color it a little. Um, we all kind of like a little, you know, I don't know if lo-fi is the word, but kind of like garage bandish sound, you know, raw, you know. So by like doing this like sample stuff with the drums, I am also realizing like I'm in danger of like over polishing the drums a little bit. So I'm keeping that in mind as I go. I don't want to have it be super slick. That's just not the sound we're going for. Um, this is because we just don't sound like that. It'd be like a lie. Um, so yeah, I would say like there's definitely like a, a lot of the influences we have are like older rock bands too. So I like a lot of that sound.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of it's always a bit of a lie, though, isn't it? I was listening to my track today. I was thinking, oh God, it doesn't sound great with all the effects off it. Yeah. But
Well,
that's a bit of production, isn't it?
it's a production. It is. If we wanted to do straight up honest recording, we would just record us playing live. And if we want to do that, we could always do that. That's kind of, I think, like the conclusion we came to was like, if we want that sound, we can just do that one day.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
very clear that this could be played live. This is great stuff, you know.
wow, cool.
So
Yeah, it is. It's live. We did play it together, and then we just
yeah.
overdubbed the guitars and the bass. And right now, like, throwing in the acoustics is a little bit of extra that, you know, we can't do live, but it's kind of stuff there that, and all these extra electrics too, it's there so I can just like raise the energy a little bit. Like in this one, I like having when the chorus comes in, if I turn off the acoustics and even this too. Now we just got a double rhythm guitar. And that's what I would play live. This is more like what would sound like live. But if I bring in all this other stuff, it adds a little more drama. So it's nothing like, it's just an extra coat of paint, you know.
Oh, well, simple things, you know, they can add some magic, you know.
Yeah, I would like it if when the chorus happened, it felt like something changed a little bit. So that's one way we're going to try to do it.
Deadly.
Yeah. So I'll keep everyone posted on what happens next. But I'm glad you made it. That you came out. It's fun to talk. And yeah, we'll do it again soon. I'll let you guys know.